So let's go ahead and start the review off with the most basic card revealed here. With the new expansion, the new mechanic as mentioned earlier is called Inspire, and here we have Lowly Squire, a very basic card, 1 mana drop, 1 attack power, 2 life, and his Inspire ability is plus 1 attack. This means that for every time you use your hero ability, Lowly Squire gets plus 1 attack. Now he's not that great even with a, say, turn 1 drop, coin out even your first turn, you coin and you drop 2 of these out. On turn 2, you use your hero ability, you get 2/2/2s. That means you just dropped 3 cards counting the coin. And then your hero ability to get whatever your ping or your totem out, and then you have 2/2/2s in the field. Now, there was a level of gameplay back, if you guys remember, with a certain cancerous Undertaker, where he got +1/+1, that's 1 attack and 1 HP for every death rattle played. Now that would be an amazing card, and it would be amazing here for Lowly Squire if he had the 1 life with it, but just 1 attack and costing your hero ability to be used every single turn to buff him. It would take till turn 3, blowing 1 mana from not getting a mana efficient play, theoretically, and you'll have 2/3/2s if you drop this off on turn 1 with the coin. So, not the best card, but you do get a good idea of the mechanic. Next up we have the Silverhand Recruit, also another inspired card. The 3 drop, 3 attack power, 3 life, with the inspire ability of summoning a 1/1 Silverhand Recruit, which is the Paladin's hero ability. Now, I dislike this card for multiple reasons. One, because I'm a Paladin player, and I don't like that the Paladin hero ability is just being given out. And 2, because I think in general you shouldn't be giving hero abilities out to neutral cards and to other classes in general. It just doesn't make sense thematically. Like, can you imagine Garrosh summoning a bunch of Silverhand Recruits in the actual lore or flavor? Could you imagine Uther summoning totems? I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. But the card itself is not amazing, not terrible. It probably will see some play in Arena, because you can probably make use of those 1/1s on whatever class you're playing some spells, because any value that you can take in Arena is actually pretty important, so you can get, let's say, at least 2 of these out with Silverhand Recruit, the 1/1 Silverhand Recruits. It's probably worth it in your time in Arena. In Constructed, there's probably no way this would ever become that useful. The only class rather that this might be useful in would be Paladin, so that you could maybe get a couple extra Silverhand Recruits. If you have this down, the next turn you play maybe a Muster for Battle, you get the extra one. Possibly, if you can hold on to them, you can get extra tokens to Quartermaster. Other than that, probably won't see too much constructed play here. Next up we have Maiden of the Lake. Maiden of the Lake is probably one of the best cards revealed so far, considering the entire expansion is about your hero ability, using your hero ability, buffing cards, or buffing your hero ability even, which we'll see later with a new legendary. Maiden of the Lake is great. She reduces your hero power to 1. Now keep in mind that this is reduced to 1, not reduced by 1. Big difference is you can't get your hero ability to be 0, because that would be completely broken with some of the new cards. But still good. It halves the mana cost of it, and there are a couple of cards that combo really well with it that we'll see here. And the base stats on Maiden of the Lake herself are really good. 4 mana, 2/6. That's a pretty hard removal for turn 4. That's pretty much a neutral that will have to eat pretty much a fireball. And I guess if you can draw out a fireball with this, it might mess up what you have schemed, but still it eats a fireball, which is a fireball that's not hitting your face, or some similar damage. This could be a very good target, not only just for, not a target rather, but a good play, not only just for powering up your hero ability, or reducing the cost rather, but for, say, a priest at a 4 mana curve, 2/6, and if they can't kill it, you're going to be able to drop, say, a Velen's Chosen on this, and this thing will be insane. It'll be, what, a 4/9, no, 4/10 with +1 spell power? It's pretty crazy. And it's a fairly early game to have something that big. That's a silence or a win for most games there. And now there weren't any rares in the neutral section that were revealed during the announcement, oddly enough, but there were a few epics. So starting now, we're going to be going into the epics of the neutrals. The first one here being Garrison Commander. Now, as mentioned, there were some good synergies with Maiden of the Lake. Garrison Commander is one of those cards where you can actually use your hero power twice on the turn. Now, this matters a lot if you can combo it with Maiden of the Lake because you have your hero power twice, obviously. You have the reduced by 1, or reduced to 1 rather. So each hero use is going to cost 1 for a total of 2. So that means you can actually play these in succession on turn 4. Turn 4 and 5, or turn 3 coin, turn 4. I don't know how much other, I guess, synergy you could pull off that early on in the game if you have the luck to pull this off and the enemy not being able to clear it, but it does open up some pretty good, interesting possibilities here for the new expansion, just because there's so many cards that are unrevealed yet, but there's so much synergy revolving around your hero ability now, so it kind of makes your play kind of dependent on when you time to use your hero ability and how you use your hero ability. As you'll see with the legendary here in the neutral section that was revealed, Justicar Trueheart, spoilers, is going to be one of the main cards if you're going to play any type of hero ability based inspired deck. But Garrison Commander as a neutral card plays into that really well, and at 2 mana for a 2/3, 2 attack power, 3 health, he's a very solid 2-drop. I mean, he's like a crocodile. Just with a much better effect, if you were playing that style of deck, of course. And after Garrison Commander, we have the second epic that was revealed from the neutral section, Kodo Rider, which is actually one of my personal favorites. Kodo Rider is a 6 mana, 3/5, who has an Inspire ability of summoning a 3/5 for every other time you use your hero ability. Now imagine if you had a Garrison Commander out and you drop this later on, you could actually use your hero ability twice, given that you have the mana, of course, to summon a 3/5 and then 2 more 3/5s. That's 3 3/5s, maybe more if you're playing a mage, which you'll see later. It could be good. It could be good. In Constructed, it's really not likely that you're able to pull this off and keep it alive for that long, which makes it not too viable of a Constructed option, just because of how slow it would be to stack the field with the Inspire ability here and how unlikely it is that you would be able to. But in Arena, if you can pull this off, where mobs are much harder to kill and the games are much slower because every deck is less organized, I feel like this would be an amazing pull in Arena at least. By spamming 3/5s doesn't mean you're guaranteed to have your hero ability. It's not like you're looking for other cards in your deck to be able to use your hero ability. You're not fishing for anything. As long as you have this card and you have the mana, you can make use of it. And in Arena, something like this where you could burn your opponent out and have a stronger field, and you kind of throw up this pseudo taunt target per se, kind of like how Emperor Thorson is a pseudo taunt target where it's dangerous enough to where they have to kill it unless they're about to win the game. You throw this out, if they don't kill it, you will eventually overtake the game and you will win it. And I really like Kodo Rider just because he's a throwback to Warcraft 3 for those who played it. My personal favorite so far are the revealed cards, but yeah, Kodo Rider not too bad here. And next up we have Frost Giant. Not too much to say about Frost Giant. I mean, he's a giant, so you know, similarly to the other giants, how his mechanics should work, considering it's hero ability based. And instead of Molten Giant, where if you lose HP, the cost is reduced. The cost is reduced for what monsters on the field, for Sea Giant, for cards in your hand, for Stone Giant. You have Frost Giant, whose cost is reduced for every time you use your hero ability this game, and that's a permanent thing. If you draw this towards the end of the game, or at least at mid-game, you'll get a reduced 8/8 drop. Starting at 10, not too bad, not too bad. If you're playing an Inspire deck, I would only assume that you'd be using your hero ability a lot, especially if you're running the cards previously mentioned with Maiden of the Lake and Garrison Commander. To get this late game, you would probably be able to drop it at 5 or less, which, a 5 mana or less, 8/8, can't complain about it. I wouldn't say that it's going to be a huge impact. It probably will be an Inspire deck just because of the synergy with it, but to play around getting a Frost Giant down, you have to play around first using your hero ability, which means it can only really go into an Inspire deck or decks that naturally use their hero abilities a lot. I wouldn't say Handlock would touch this too much. I mean, they could. It's another option to drop. if you're tapping a lot and you don't have any other cards, but at that point you're probably going to die to aggro as a handlock. Let's see, who else? A hunter, maybe? Hunter could be using their hero ability to do the 2 damage a decent amount leading up to mid to end game, but at that point, I don't know if you want to be holding on to a Frost Giant. With most decks, you would want to draw into this. So this is one of those giants where you would have to mulligan, and I don't know how good it would perform in most decks that don't play around it. And next up, we have the legendary from the neutral section that was announced recently, Justicar Trueheart. Now, Justicar Trueheart might just be the next staple legendary. It definitely goes well in an Inspire deck because she has a battle cry. That's right, a battle cry. It sticks forever once played. She's a 6 mana, 6/3 drop who gives your hero ability a better hero ability permanently. What you might be wondering is what a hero ability is, and I'll show you here in just a second. But what they basically are your normal hero abilities, but for the most part double, or for those who can't double it, they have some other random effects. I guess the one drawback to Justicar would be the 6 mana drop. It kind of competes with a lot of cards at 6 mana, namely Sylvanas, Emperor Thaurissan, and for certain class cards, Savannah High Main, stuff like that. The great thing about Justicar, though, is her effect is immediate and permanent. Once you have that buffed effect, even if you're not an Inspire deck, you can make use of it. So, while being an absolute must in Inspire decks, it's pretty reasonable to assume that people will start to think of things outside of an Inspire deck that could use Justicar, because imagine not an Inspire priest, but just a regular priest, Akanai Soul Priest that makes your hero ability do damage, or instead of heals. So you're going to be dropping for 4 mana the Akanai, then later on you can drop a Justicar, or the other way around, of course. You drop the Justicar first, later on, and then next you drop the Akanai, use your hero ability, and you're doing 4 damage instead of 2 damage. Now, this kind of completely eliminates the need for Shadow Form from Priest now because you have Justicar. So imagine that this card is actually a 6/3 for 6 mana combined with a, I don't know, a Shadow Form, like say for a Mage. It's similar to using Shadow Form because they get 2 damage pings instead of 1 damage ping. So, yeah, there's just so many universal uses for this that it could be, I wouldn't say a staple because not every deck would need it, but viable in most decks like Emperor Thaurissan. And for those who are curious as to what Justicar's better hero abilities are, here they are. You have the Warrior Double Up Tank Up, base mana cost of 2 for all of these, of course. Gain 4 armor instead of 2. The Priest, gain 4 health instead of 2. Silverhand, gain 2 1/1 recruits instead of 1. For Paladin, of course. The Warlock, probably one of the weaker ones. Tap, draw a card for no 2 HP loss. Can't see too many situations where that's completely necessary, since Warlocks do tend to want to lose HP if they're tapping a lot anyways with their Molten Giants and whatnot for handlock. For Rogue, you have Poison Daggers. You equip a base 2/2 weapon, which pretty nice for Oil Rogue and most types of rogues in general. Ballista Shot for Hunter, deal 3 damage instead of 2. You have Dire Shapeshift, gain 2 attack and 2 armor, pretty great. Fire Blast rank 2, deal 2 damage ping instead of 1, which is really good considering it's targeted. Same with the Druid ability. And Shaman, last but not least, summon a totem of your choice, which is pretty interesting because now you can pull out a Taunt Totem when you need it. You can pull out the Wrath of Air Totem for plus spell damage when you need it, though I would say that's one of the weaker ones as well. Looking at these, they're obviously trying to make control decks bigger. They're trying to shift the meta to be a bit slower and add more control into the game, considering there's so much aggro and a lot of patroning in the game. But I think that the game is already shifting to control and slower paced games even prior to the release of this, because everyone has been trying to counter Patron, mainly the Cancerous deck out right now. And it's already making the game a bit slower, and so I feel like they're implementing a expansion, patch, whatever you want to call this, to fix that, but a bit too late because the game's already shifting in that direction, and so this kind of makes the classes that people are playing to stop all the aggro and all the patroning a bit more powerful, because warriors are already hard to kill, same with priests, and now doubling up their hero ability if they decide to go this route makes it even more ridiculous. And a bit the same way with Rogue here. You get a base 2/2 weapon if you pull that out, and that eliminates the need for as much buffing of your weapons. You're still going to obviously need those to win the game if you're playing Oil Rogue, but this gives you that one extra buff, and I mean, it's not the best hero ability, but it works. Hunter got a nerf. They didn't even get double, they got +1 damage, so Hunter, Warlock, Shaman, maybe even Druid will be the ones playing this the least. But yeah, it feels like Warrior, Priest, Mage probably got the biggest buffs here in Justicar Trueheart, and I think those are the three classes that don't need them right now. You have Control Warrior and Patron, obviously, which is huge, and you have Priest Control, which is pretty great already. They're very hard to kill. Their control is great. They use your own cards against you, of course. And then you have Fire Blast rank 2, which Freeze Mage is already a very popular deck. So is Tempo Mage, so is Echo Mage, and so on and so forth. I'm completely fine with the less damage buff to Hunter, but I feel like Warlock could have had something a little bit better. Same with Shaman, and the same with Druid. Same with Rogue even, actually, because you're only getting that +1 dagger, and you have to pretty much spread that 1 damage over the course of both your hits. Overall, it just feels like they're buffing the wrong classes here. I thought Shaman would get the buff, definitely the biggest buff. I thought Paladin would have gotten a bigger buff, and I thought Priest I'm okay with, because I agree that Priests do need some different ways to play, and they do need a bit of a buff as well. But overall, this should be an interesting card, and you'll see it fairly often. And then last but not least, of course, the next legendary, Nexus Champion Sarad. Now, Nexus Champion Sarad is a pretty amazing card. He's 5 mana, 4/5, not the craziest stats. He's a solid stat for, what, a 4 mana drop. But he has a really cool ability to add any random spell to your hand on Inspire. That's, of course, using your hero ability. Now, that opens up so many possible combos. Again, those are all random combos, so you have no idea what you're getting, but that's any card, any class, which would be really interesting to see what can actually come up. In Constructed, it's a bit too random, which makes it too inconsistent to play to climb the ladder, constantly winning anyways. And in Arena, though, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's a decent drop, it's hard to kill, and again, it's a pseudo taunt where your opponent will kind of have to focus on it. But if you can keep it up, you can get really, really good, or I guess really, really bad cards, but the point is you get cards, which being able to bring your opponent out and outlast them, or make better value trades, or better value plays in general, is very important in winning Arena. So in Constructed, you might see some cool decks. You might see him thrown in there with Inspire decks in general. He's a decent 5-drop. But you'll see him in Arena for sure, because he's just so interesting. And he's pretty good. He'll round out our neutrals here. So we'll take a look at the class cards next in the second part of this video. And we'll see how they hold up, and you'll see more combos on how this might be better and how Inspired decks might be played in general. Of course, we haven't seen all the cards yet, but it'll be really interesting to kind of start theory crafting after our next video here. So if you guys like the video so far, go ahead and like or subscribe to me below. Come back for the next 2 parts of the video coming, the next one being all the class cards that we see, the second one being the Pt1 release of, I think, 3 or 4 new cards. And after that, we'll do some theory crafting for new decks. Thank you guys for watching, and take it easy.